The Gators are back, baby, or at least that's what they'd have you believe after the week that was. We're going to go ahead and talk about a few of the games, and I'm going to give you just some of my thoughts. I've watched a little bit of the film. I haven't been able to dig into every game, so I could have opinions that change later on. But this is kind of my quick, instant reaction to you guys, so that way I can give you the feelings and let's talk about the week that was. So we're going to kick it off in Gainesville here as my Gators took on the Texas Longhorns. This game here really was what I expected the Gators to look like this year. They kind of put it all together for this game. And, it gives me some hope going into the future. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like it's still a little too late and there's still a ceiling with Billy Napier. For some reason, we come into seasons completely unprepared. And then when he gets his back against the wall, he seems to get this team going a little bit better. They do have his respect, clearly. They haven't quit on him, which is fantastic to see as a Gator fan. But I still question the long-term viability of him being our head coach. I still view it basically as a matter of when, not if he ends up getting fired this year. Now, I could be completely wrong, and he could completely turn around, run the table, win 9 games this year, 10 with a bowl game, and you know what? We're talking about Billy Napier's back for another year. But to be honest with you, I don't expect that to happen. As a fan, of course, I'd love for it to happen. I'd rather us win than lose. I don't care who the head coach is as long as we're a good team. I'm not one of them people that's like, no, we got to get Billy out of here. I don't care. Just lose the games and get it over with. No, I'm not that guy. You know, Seeing the Gators win, it matters to me. And I'd rather see them win than lose. So it just doesn't make sense for me to root against my team just because I think they need to make a change at head coach to reach their ceiling. So hopefully the turnaround's permanent because that's all I really want to see is a winning Gator football team. I'm just not really convinced it is, if I'm being honest with you. I think that playing Texas kind of showed a little bit more about how bad Texas is versus how good Florida actually is. I just think Texas is in a really bad spot this year. I think Arch isn't that great, which we should have seen a little bit more of coming into the year. I had high hopes for him, and I'll admit that I kind of bought a little bit of the media narrative. And then when you watch the tape, you're like, I can see what they're talking about. The biggest issue for me coming into the year was there wasn't enough film, and when he played Georgia, it wasn't good last year. And I just thought, well, he came into a tough situation against Georgia. Quinn Ewers didn't look good either. And I had faith that he would be better than that coming into this year. And ultimately he just hasn't been. And that's just what it is. I mean, we have to accept that for what it is. We have to be disappointed in him. And the thing is though, watching it, our defensive line actually manhandled Texas in this game in my opinion. And we're missing Aaron Banks, our best defensive player. So that tells you a little bit more about the story, though. Arch is struggling. The offensive line isn't very good for Texas, though. And that's just a fact. I've watching this game, I'm not trying to give excuses because, to be honest with you, I don't think Arch is a first round quarterback right now, this year or next year. I think he has too many flaws in his game. I can see why they started Quinn Ewers. The film I've watched this year has been really bad. There isn't enough to even cherry pick on there and be like, ooh, this is why he's a first round talent. I don't see it. And that's just a fact. It's just not on film. He has shown a late to undrafted level quarterback play right now as a starter. But not to make an excuse because everybody thinks you are when you talk about other issues on Texas. That offensive line sucked. Their left guard was getting beat nonstop and like a drum in that game, dude. Like watching it, I just couldn't believe how bad he was. I don't even know his name. I've watched some of the film on this. I was hoping to get all the way through it before I recorded the video, but at the same time, life's crazy, so you got to fit it in when you can fit it in to sit down and record. And I didn't get this film until today, so unfortunately, I just didn't have time to completely finish it, but what I was watching on TV seems to show up in the all 22 where that left guard was just overmatched. The interior of the offensive line's not good. The tackles don't look very good. And honestly, I was just wrong about their defense. I thought their defense would be so much better. Colin Simmons, like I thought the pass rush would be nonstop, and it's not. Simmons makes some splash play because he's a really good player. I still like Jabbar Muhammad at corner. I think so far he's maybe been a little disappointing, but overall, I'm pretty happy with his play. I haven't studied him deep. I've watched the defense, but I haven't actually just studied him. And there is a difference. Like some people watch the defense and rate prospects. I don't do that. When I'm rating a prospect, I zone in and I only watch that player. I don't watch two players at once. I don't watch the defense and rank everybody. I'm just watching the player. So when it comes to my draft eval on Javar Muhammad, I do feel like it's going to be pretty good, but I haven't dove deep on that. I've just been watching the all 22 film right now and gathering basic thoughts and kind of getting ready to start releasing some very, very early rankings because I feel like that's good and everybody wants to talk about him. So we're going to be on to that soon. But we're going to talk about our next game here. I think we have to go to Penn State next. Um, Listen, this is a defining moment for James Franklin. Let's just be honest about it. They shouldn't have lost this game, and there's really no excuse to lose it. UCLA is a bad team, and they made a lot of changes on the coaching staff. And to be honest with you, kudos to the coaching staff. Like that offensive play caller in that game who deserves the OC title, their interim head coach. I mean, everything came together, and they looked like the better team against Penn State. And James Franklin is kind of starting to quickly look like the guy who can make your program really good but not great. So to me, he belongs at more of a Vanderbilt, where he was before going to Penn State, where he built Vanderbilt into a good, respectable program. And I just I expect more out of Penn State. They went all in this year. Like they didn't go quite as heavy in the portal as Ohio State did last year to really fill out their roster, but they retained most of their guys that were very important except for at the receiver position, which you know, I was high on Drew Aller, and we're gonna have maybe later this week, we're gonna talk about some prospects that went up and some prospects that have gone down for me. And Drew Aller was a guy I was really high on coming into the year. Like I'd seen the growth and I was willing to look past what he was earlier in his career because I really felt like last year he took a step forward. This year, he's flushed that all down the toilet. And I could see a day two quarterback, but not an early day two quarterback. To me, he's probably a day three guy. I just he has talent, but I don't know what the issue is. Like, is the issue Penn State or is the issue just him? Like, when you watch them call games, he really struggles when it's not like curls, hitches, comebacks. He struggles to get that ball in there accurately and on time. And he looks indecisive when he has to throw them really tough NFL throws. But then when he lets it rip and he does it, man, it can be beautiful sometimes. Which is why I was high on him coming into the year because I was like, oh, he's going to take a step forward. He'll develop that part of his game. And he hasn't. However, all the dogging on Drew Aller, this game's not on him. This game's on Penn State's defense, which isn't what I expected. I'll admit I wasn't watching this game, so I did dive into the all 22, and their defense just I don't know, man. They just didn't show up to play in this one. And Penn State had them, or I mean, UCLA had them on their heels all day, and it was something else, man. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't think that there was any chance that they were gonna lose this game. Like I don't know what else to say other than I'm stunned they lost. This isn't what a team that James Franklin coaches usually do. They usually clean up against the teams they're supposed to beat, and they didn't. And I really don't know. Like they were just bad on defense. Their offense did enough where they should have won the game, but their defense, garbage. Their defense was garbage in this game, and I really don't understand why. It was a bad day. The season's not over though. Let me just say that. I try to keep it pretty optimistic here. Like I'm going to talk about coaches being fired and stuff. Maybe that's the Gator fan in me where I'm just constantly hoping we can get it turned around and figured out. Like I was on a high at the end of last season feeling great for the Gators when they got hot and was like, "All right, we're going to be able to carry that into this season and do great." And, obviously that didn't happen, but I want to look at it optimistically for Penn State. They've lost 2 games. They have everything left ahead of them. If they can get their heads out of their, what's, yeah, they can still turn this thing around. Like they have every chance to get 2 quality victories. They can beat Indiana, they can beat Ohio State, and they can put themselves back into the playoff discussion firmly. The problem is I have zero, and I mean zero faith that they're actually going to be able to do that. I don't even know if they're going to be able to beat Indiana, let alone Ohio State. Now, the thing is, when you look at Ohio State, they've looked really good, but we're going to find a lot out about them next week. or this week here on Saturday because they play Illinois. And even though Illinois is maybe not as good as I thought they might be at the beginning of the year, they're still a really good, tough, disciplined team. And potentially the best matchup that they are going to have to face so far this year. Because the fact is, Texas ain't all that. And that's really the only big marquee matchup that Ohio State has so far. And I'm not saying that to say I don't like their defense. I think Ohio State has what looks like the best defense in the country right now. They've allowed, I think, 25 points in their games so far this year. They're averaging like 5 points a game allowed. Incredible. An absolutely impeccable record and stats so far. But at the same time, you got to look at it and go, who have they played? Well, they've played Texas. Texas has been extremely underwhelming. Washington, they got a win off, over Maryland, and that was a come from behind. What I think they were down 20 in this past week and came back to win the game. So to me, it kind of discredits, not to discredit Maryland. Maryland looks good this year. But the fact is, I don't think Washington's as good as people thought they might have been either because they were dominating bad competition earlier this year. And I just don't think Ohio State's played anybody yet. And they're going to see better teams ahead. And they absolutely can go out and dominate. Their defense looks incredible. I'm a Patriots fan as well. I'm from Massachusetts initially. You can see the Super Bowl hat over here, right here, my Patriots hat in the corner. I'm a Patriots fan. Like I seen Matt Patricia and I know he's a great defensive play caller. And I absolutely have faith that they're going to be able to carry what they're doing on throughout the year and they're just going to get better. So I don't expect Ohio State to be a bad team. I'm not dogging on their defense. I'm just saying they haven't played anybody. And I'm really curious to see how they're going to match up. Like Penn State on paper should match up pretty as well as you can hope in the Big Ten that they're going to see this year. Indiana's a good team, and I don't think Indiana plays Ohio State this year. The Big Ten does a good job of really helping these teams not see the best competition each and every year. And it's not the dog, the Big Ten. Yes, I'm a Gator fan, so naturally I'm a little bit more of an SEC fan. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I've never been a Big Ten fan my whole life. I grew up in upstate or Massachusetts and upstate New York, almost in Canada. So it was Syracuse and Boston College football. Both dreadful, both pathetic. Watched them, but never really developed a big fandom. Like I root for them, but I'm not a big fan of them. So I just became a Gator fan. And by watching, they were really good in my youth. So I became a Gator fan. And then I moved to Florida and I live in the Gainesville region. I live outside of it, but I live around Gainesville. Kind of all worked out. So, you know, I just, I'm an SEC fan and I know that. And that's what I was saying. But I think that Ohio State is going to be able to run the table. I think their defense is that good. But at the same time, everybody that's talking about like Miami not going to ever be able, like I've seen so many different things that people say Miami would never even match up, wouldn't be able to sniff, wouldn't be able to get 2 touchdowns on Ohio State. That's where you're wrong. Ohio State hasn't played anybody. That's plain and simple facts. I'm excited to watch Ohio State going forward. And I think even though Penn State's been extremely disappointing, if they don't let this tear them apart, it's kind of a rambling way of saying it, but if they don't let this tear them apart, they're going to be able to go in there and prove themselves against Ohio State. Do I think they're going to do it? No, I don't, but they have the chance. Everything's still in front of them. Now, I think if they end this season with 4 losses or more, I don't know if they're going to be able to get the money together to get James Franklin out of there, but I think it would be time to make a change. That's just a fact. This team was far too talented. They had too much going for them for this to happen. And it's been the James Franklin era. They've been nothing but disappointing. When they're supposed to be good, they're disappointing. So if they can't get it turned around and realize that everything's still ahead of them this season, unfortunately, it's going to be time to consider moving on from James Franklin and seeing if he can get that money together because I see fans of Penn State talking about how, yeah, but if we get rid of him, like that 10-win season and being at the top, the question I have for you, and I guess it's me as a delusional SEC fan, if I have a program like Penn State, I'm not okay with just being a 10-win team. I want to be the best. So why would they settle? That's my question. Why would you settle? And if you are a Penn State fan, hit me up in the comments. Let's talk about that because I know there's risk, and I've seen it with the Gators how things can go sideways when you move on from coaches that did get you them 10-win seasons. We've done it, what, 3 times, I think, now with Mullen, McElwain, and Muschamp. They each had 10-win seasons in there, and then we moved on from them anyway. But that program can win a national title. And I have full belief in that, and they should. Even as an SEC fan, there are teams in the Big Ten that I'm like, the SEC should be scared of Ohio State, of course. Michigan, Penn State has every reason to be one of the best programs in the country every year. Oregon, USC. Like, there's no reason why Penn State should settle for a 10-win season and being like, that's good enough. We're getting to the playoffs. Woohoo! Like, nah, that's not good enough in my opinion. As a fan of an SEC school, that's mine. But if you're a Penn State fan or alum, let's talk about that because I'm definitely curious about your opinions. Now, the rest of the weekend, honestly, it ended up being a bit of a dud between Miami and Florida State. The score looked closer than it was. Miami was just better. I have a lot of faith in this Miami team, and I don't think I was as high on them as I should have been in my preseason previews and predictions, which I stand by them. They're what I watch on tape. They're what I feel in my gut. And I guess I didn't expect the rebound out of Carson Beck that they got. I think their secondary is better than I expected them to be when I was watching tape of them. They got 2 guys out of the portal at safety that are both really good and have fit the system really well. You know, Ruben Bain, we all knew how good he was. Akeem Mesidor, I was actually a really big fan of, but he is an older guy for being an NFL draft prospect. And he does have a few limitations when you watch him directly. But he is somebody that, I expected their edge rushing group to be good. I thought their linebacking core would be good, but excuse me, I had questions about the secondary, and it's been really good. They have 2 safeties that are played really well for them that came out of the portal. Their interior, their defensive line, I still think is a little up and down. They have good players there that they've flashed, but I wouldn't call them elite grouping or anything. But on offense, I mean, Carson Beck has been incredible, and the true freshman receiver, Malachi Tony, like, I didn't know that about him. I'm not going to sit here and say I watch high school tape. I don't know jack squat about these guys other than what you hear when they're coming out of high school. Like, I knew Dallas Wilson from my Florida Gators was a big X type that if he was as good as they said he was, he would make an impact. And guess what? Dude made an impact. I didn't know a thing about Tony, and I've been super impressed by this kid. Like, he's a scat, quick, run after catch type of guy, but he's been everything for this offense that I didn't know they had. So it's added a dimension along with Carson Beck playing really good ball that, hey, it is what it is. Like, I'm excited to watch them. Yes, I'm a Gator fan. No, I'm not sitting here rooting for the Hurricanes, but at the same time, man, I'm a football fan. I love watching the game. And I try to keep it in perspective as hard as it is. Like, these are kids. Some are not, there's some old players in college nowadays, but these are kids that are out here possibly playing for their last time. And although it's nil era and portal era, there are some dudes that really love being at these schools they're at and being like, I really think Malachi Tony being from South Florida, like he has real pride in being a Hurricane. So I don't know, man. I root for these kids, like, and I think it's good to have good teams. Like, I enjoy watching them, even as a Gator fan. Dude, you just got to tip your hat to him. Mario Cristobal's done a good job. He was a coach that I thought was going to be on the James Franklin arc, but you know, he's got a really good team this year. He had a good offense last year, but their defense was horrible last year, in my opinion, and kept holding them back. Even with the star players they had on it, there was a lot of holes, which is why I was kind of worried about being high on Miami this year. But their defensive coordinator they brought in, dude's incredible. If you're a Miami fan, you better hope you're able to hold on to him because I could see him getting head coaching offers off of that. I mean, he's been incredible for you. And yeah, like they're a good, fun team to watch, and they dominated Florida State. They made Tommy Castellanos try to throw the ball, and that's just not his game. If you can get him out of running the ball, It's the reason why Boston College had to move it on from him. And, I mentioned I was a Boston College fan before, so that's why I was really kind of low on Florida State this year because I just didn't have a lot of faith in him as a starting quarterback for a program like that had big aspirations. And I could see him being good enough to get him 8, 9 wins, maybe, all season, including the bowl game. I just, I think there's a ceiling with him because if you can get him into having to be a passer, you can beat him. So that's kind of my thoughts on that game. Miami was just a better team, and it wasn't as close as the box score indicated. And the rest of the games this weekend, there were some entertaining ones, but there really wasn't a whole lot to take from them. If there is a game you guys want to see me talk about or want to hear my thoughts about, hit me up in the comments. I'll talk to you about it directly. I love talking college football. I watch all 22 tape. I watch prospects for the NFL draft. We're going to have another mock draft coming out soon. We're going to start doing some early position rankings that are going to be based off of my predictions from last year. And I'm going to try to throw in like one all 22 tape from this year and just kind of marry them two together and give it an update. At the end of the season, we'll do my first like real heavy hitter where I'm going to watch all the film of these guys or try to have 2 games, maybe even 3 games watch for them and base it off of that and kind of leave my predictions for them out of it. And then as we get closer to the draft, I like to watch 4 games of all 22. I like to gather all the data I can, and then I'll give you my final position rankings on that. And of course, we're just going to keep talking college football because I love talking college football. That's all I got for you today. Have a great one. I'll catch you in the next one. I'm out.